The Problem of Social Cost, Ronald Coase, Journal of Law and Economics, 1960. One of the most famous and influential law review articles ever written was The Problem of Social Cost. Its effect extends far beyond academia, shaping real-world policies and legal frameworks. Ronald Coase's work gave birth to the law and economics movement, now one of the predominant tools for analyzing the impact of private and public policies. Coase used several examples in the article to illustrate his ideas, such as the noisy confectioner and the doctor. Picture a doctor who needs quiet for her practice next door to a noisy confectionery machine. Should the confectioner have the right to make noise, or should the doctor have the right to silence? Traditionally, we might assume the party causing the problem, the confectioner, should be responsible. But Coase argued that under certain conditions, it doesn't matter who has the legal right. The most efficient outcome will occur regardless of the initial allocation of rights. Quote, "The traditional approach has tended to obscure the nature of the choice that has to be made. The question is commonly thought of as one in which A inflicts harm on B, and what has to be decided is, how should we restrain A? But this is wrong. We are dealing with a problem of a reciprocal nature. To avoid the harm to B would inflict harm on A. The real question that has to be decided is, should A be allowed to harm B, or should B be allowed to harm A? The problem is to avoid the more serious harm. In an ideal world, the parties can negotiate freely. If the cost of preventing the damage is less than the damage itself, it will be done, regardless of who has the legal right." Quote, "If we are to discuss the problem in terms of causation, both parties caused the damage. If we are to attain an optimum allocation of resources, it is therefore desirable that both parties should take the harmful effect, the nuisance, into account in deciding on their course of action." Of course, the real world isn't so simple. We often have high transaction costs, imperfect information, multiple parties involved. Coase recognized these complications. In his other example of pollution from a factory affecting many residents, negotiation becomes much more complex. Sometimes government regulation might be helpful in a complex situation, but regulation also has costs that ought to be considered. Coase advocated for economists and lawyers to analyze real-world effects in measurable terms. Previous methods spent too much time considering an ideal world or an unconstrained marketplace, neither of which actually exist. Quote, "We have to take into account the costs involved in operating the various social arrangements, whether it be the working of a market or of a government department, as well as the costs involved in moving to a new system. In devising and choosing between social arrangements, we should have regard for the total effect." Coase's work encourages us to look beyond simple cause and effect in legal disputes. Whether it's noise pollution or factory emissions, the Coase theorem provides a framework for analyzing these problems in terms of reciprocal harms and negotiated solutions. This insight has influenced areas from environmental law to telecommunications policy.